Greetings travellers. Some of you may have noticed that several of my builds have a lot of Eastern influence, particularly Japanese. I was lucky enough to live over there for 12 years or so, and fell in love with the aesthetic of the place, so it does creep into my builds from time to time. In particular, the religious bits and pieces often reflect Japanese Buddhist and Shinto shrines and temples. I think the idea that certain populations revere the Atlas, for example, or the great turtle at Zaratania, or the giant leviathans, make the bases, for me, that little bit more realistic as actual populated places. I haven't been back to Japan for about 5 years, and I made a promise to Mrs. Tosk that I would go with her this time around to visit my in-laws. It was only a short 1-week trip, but I had a bit of a list of things that I wanted to do. The main thing was to visit the onsen hot springs, which had become my favourite thing to do when I was living there. A little while ago I constructed an onsen base in No Man's Sky. It's my only 3,000 piece base, and I wanted to make it as authentic as possible, going from memory. Rain chains, tatami mats, futons, the dining area and facilities, as well as the washrooms and the hot springs themselves. I shot some phone footage of my whirlwind trip, which I'd like to show you. Hopefully a side of Japan that isn't always in the tourist brochures. Everyday life stuff. Plus, of course, our visit to the onsen. Hopefully it will be as wonderful as I remember. The journey from Adelaide, Australia to Narita is about 24 hours door to door. The less said about it, the better. We got into Chigasaki quite late at night, so the next morning I went for a walk. Quite brisk out, coming from an Australian summer. Still, the plum blossoms had started blooming by the end of February. I missed the manicured trees, but also the interesting juxtaposition of these beautiful trees and what may be the ugliest telephone poles in the world. I find them oddly beautiful in an Eraserhead kind of way. There are still a couple of fully derelict houses around, a lot fewer than before, which I also think are intriguing. We used to nickname them Ju-on houses. Spooky. Next day we went for a bit of a drive to visit our old apartment in Aiko-Ishida, on the very fringes of suburbia. On the way, I even spotted Yoda.
I don't believe it.
That is why you fail.
Aiko-Ishida is still a sleepy little part of Kanagawa Prefecture, and hadn't really changed much at all. We visited our old supermarket, which somehow survives despite not being renovated since the 70s, is my guess. Cheap local bento boxes though.
Yes, but now let's eat. Come.
That night, Mrs. Tosk's parents took us all out for sushi. Oishikata. The next day we all went to a recycle shop near Kamakura. This was also on my list of things to do. Japanese recycle shops are amazing. For geeky peeps like me, there are lots of figures, DVDs and discs, manga, and enough vintage game cartridges to choke a camel. Less than $5 each. Clothes are really cheap too. I've linked a guide below on how to find these gold mines if you ever visit. Amazing. I wanted to find this guy, but I bought this guy. Who is he? What is he? Why is he?
These monsters are as stupid as human beings.
Another day I caught up with one of my old work buddies, and we shared a few drinks and reminisced in Ueno Park in Tokyo. What happened to the surfboard?
The surfboard, the police told me to give it back to her.
I feel like you're skipping a big part of the story.
Yeah, well, so...
He took me to Ueno Ameyoko near Ueno Station for some street food and more nonsense. Good times. My wife and I finally headed for the onsen in Hakone, about an hour and a bit by train on the Odaku line from Shinjuku on the lovely romance car. We even saw a snow-capped Fujisan peeking out from behind the mountains. The train ride was thoroughly enjoyable. We then changed to the Tozan switchback train up the mountain from Hakone Yumoto. In spring, summer and autumn this place is super lush. We then took a cable car train even higher to the Sunzan station and took an alarming ride in a diagonal elevator to the onsen. We then arrived at Gora Hanaogi Onsen and were treated with exceptional service at every turn. They cater to foreigners, so there are documents and menus in several languages. The staff we met also spoke pretty good English. I'm not sponsored by them, by the way, but the link to their website is in the description. Our room had its own hot spring bath and everything was immaculate as expected. Dinner and breakfast were exceptional and beautiful. Mrs. Tosk is a ceramicist, so she was in pottery nirvana. After checking out at the very civilized time of 11 AM, we walked down the mountain to the train and enjoyed Hakone's quiet historical streets. There is literally hot spring water gushing out of the drains here. I left Japan the next day, but it was a thoroughly enjoyable little sabbatical. Arigato and mata ne. Of course, my onsen doesn't compare with the real thing in the ways that really count, but I think it will at least serve to refresh my memory of why I became so enamored with them in the first place. I've included a link in the description for the onsen in No Man's Sky. Please come for a visit and soak in your own private bath. I hope you enjoyed this odd little vid. Please leave a like and subscribe if you wish. And as always, thanks very much for watching, and we'll see you later.